Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Thanks for joining me today. House Republicans are ramping up their investigation into what they allege was a coordinated effort to conceal President Joe Biden's cognitive decline during his time in office. And they're not ruling out bringing in the former president and first lady themselves for questioning. More on this in just a moment. In his first public comment since his father left the White House, Hunter Biden blamed Democrats, yes, the Democrats, for his father's humiliating 2024 election loss. And boy, he didn't hold back this time. Also, the man who spent years lecturing the rest of us about law and order, who led the charge in impeaching President Trump over a phone call. Yeah, that guy, Adam Schiff. He's just been referred to the Department of Justice for mortgage fraud. Have the latest on this breaking story as well. And Epstein's lawyer says there was absolutely no client list, and also sets the record straight on President Trump, saying there's nothing improper or even questionable between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald J. Trump. That and a lot of your text messages, emails in today's show.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
House Republicans are ramping up their investigation into Joe Biden. Oversight Committee Chairman, Representative James Comer, told reporters, we're going to try to get answers. We're going to try to do this so rapidly. Every option's on the table. The comments come after the second closed-door deposition of Anthony Bernal, a longtime senior advisor to Jill Biden and her closest aide in the West Wing. Bernal invoked the Fifth Amendment, of course, refusing to answer questions. During his appearance before the committee, he prompted a strong response from GOP members who say his silence only deepens the mystery. Representative Byron Donalds, a vocal member of the Oversight Committee, said if he came in here and pleaded the Fifth, I'm sorry, the former First Lady, she's got to come in here and answer real questions. As far as I'm concerned, every member of the Biden administration at this point needs to be subpoenaed. I don't care if they were a secretary. I don't care if they were a janitor working there. I think they're determined to get some answers, don't you? Mr. Donalds emphasized that he was speaking personally and not for the full committee, but he and Representative Cromer appeared united in pushing the investigation forward with a bit of urgency. Look, it's time to stop playing around with this, and we need to get answers. If it means bringing Joe Biden in, if it means bringing Jill Biden in, they should do it. And let's finally put this to rest. The Oversight Committee investigation is centering on whether White House aides knowingly concealed signs of Biden's physical or mental deterioration. Well, look, the whole country knows the answer to that. It's not very hard, not a difficult question, not a trick question. We know they were hiding it. We know they were concealing it. Anybody who was around Joe Biden at any given time during, let's say, the last year of his presidency had to have known that the man just was not what he used to be. And again, they're centering on who knew what, whether any official acts were carried out without his awareness, including, of course, the controversial use of the auto pen to sign executive actions and pardons. This is really got the country standing up and paying attention, this whole auto pen thing. The Biden White House and allies insist that the president remained in charge throughout his term, with Biden himself telling the New York Times last week that he made every decision on his own. Sure, Joe. Yeah, we're buying that. But you had to have an auto pen to sign it. I'll say it again. If you can't sign important documents like pardons, then I'm going to have to question whether or not you're capable of doing the job. It's just that simple. And other Republicans aren't buying it. They say aides who've refused to cooperate are only fueling suspicion. And they're right. I mean, if you go in and you're talking to the Oversight Committee and they're asking you questions about Joe Biden's mental capacity during those last years of his presidency, and you plead the fifth, you're just asking for questions. I mean, look, the truth will always work. Stick with the truth, and you don't have anything to worry about. Representative Donald said Anthony Bernal was the right-hand man. If he's pleading the fifth, we have to ask, what was he protecting? And more importantly, who was he protecting? So far, 3 former Biden White House staffers have been subpoenaed. In addition to Mr. Bernal, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, Biden's longtime personal physician, we know he didn't answer any questions, and former Deputy Chief of Staff Annie Tomasini. Both also declined to answer key questions during their appearances, citing legal counsel or constitutional protections. Again, if the truth doesn't hurt, which in their cases, since they're declining to answer the questions, then they must know something. They have to know something. It only makes you suspicious, doesn't it? This congressional inquiry is running parallel to a broader probe now underway inside the Trump White House and Justice Department. At the heart of that investigation, of course, is the question of whether President Biden's aides were effectively running the government during his final months in office, using the auto pen to issue legally binding documents while shielding Biden's cognitive state from the public. It's mighty suspicious now that we know that they were using the auto pen on so many documents. Now, the Biden team, of course, is maintaining that the use of the auto pen, which is a longstanding executive tool, I'll give them that. Every president's used it, just not the way Joe Biden used it. But their claim is that it was legal, that it was transparent, and carried out with the president's approval. Well, if that's the case, why not answer the questions that you're being asked? Why not just come clean? Recent revelations, including internal White House communications and emails released by whistleblowers, suggest that Joe Biden may not have personally reviewed or signed many of the documents that had his signature on it by the auto pen, including pardons for the high-profile figures like Anthony Fauci, General Mark Milley, and, of course, his son, Hunter Biden, which, by the way, we know that Joe Biden did, in fact, sign that one personally. It was a different signature, not the auto pen signature. Now, Republicans are arguing that if Biden wasn't aware of what he was signing, or if staff were making decisions in his name without his direct input, it amounts to a constitutional crisis. Now, Jill Biden's role in this, the First Lady, traditionally avoids legal scrutiny. Republicans say that Jill Biden's unusually hands-on role in the West Wing, combined with the conduct of her staff, does in fact warrant some serious examination. There needs to be some questions that typically you wouldn't ask of a First Lady. One GOP staffer said she wasn't just picking drapes. Her senior advisor is pleading the fifth before Congress. That raises real questions about who was running the show. And we have to know, as the old saying goes, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this one out, that Jill Biden was, in fact, running a lot of what was going on in the White House. Representative Comer emphasized that no final decision has been made about whether to subpoena the Bidens themselves, but he's leaving the door wide open just in case. He said, we're going to let that evidence lead us. Look, it won't surprise me if they don't end up getting Jill Biden and Joe Biden in there to testify. Now, the question is, will they answer any questions? And I don't know, what do you do? Maybe this is a question for one of my attorney friends out there listening today. Can you compel them to talk, or can they plead the fifth? Of course, Democrats are pushing back. They've dismissed the investigation as political theater, accusing Republicans of smearing Biden for electoral gain. Progressive lawmakers like AOC have said that they never had a concern about Biden's mental state while he was in office. Look, I don't doubt that. AOC doesn't have enough sense herself to even know something might have been wrong, to know what the standard should be. But even as Democrats try to move past this controversy, the optics of senior staffers refusing to testify under oath, especially in wake of Biden's surprise 2025 exit from the campaign, it has to leave you suspicious. You have to be wondering what's really going on here, right? So what's next? With additional subpoenas possible, pressure mounting to release more internal documents from the Biden White House, the Oversight Committee shows no signs of slowing down, nor should they. Donald said, every executive action, every pardon, every decision made using that auto pen, we're going to get to the bottom of it. And if that means asking the Bidens directly, then that's what we're going to do. And I think Byron Donalds will stick to that, don't you? I don't think Byron Donalds is just saying that to hear himself talk. I think he and James Comer will make sure that one way or the other, we get as best information as we can get. And then where it leads, I have no idea. I mean, if, in fact, we learn that Joe Biden did not authorize some of these pardons, can they rescind them? I don't know the answer to that. Again, maybe one of my smart listeners, one of my legal scholars, does know the answer to that. I don't know if you can undo a pardon. I guess if you discovered that it was done in less than favorable or illegal situation, that you had someone issuing a pardon that wasn't authorized, I guess it could be undone. I don't know. It's a good question. Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. While we're talking about the Biden family, Hunter Biden was in the news yesterday too. And let's talk about little Hunter here, the guy who somehow keeps managing to put himself at the center of American politics without ever holding elected office himself. Hunter just popped up in a new interview, his first public comments in quite a while since his dad left office, and boy, was it a doozy. This time he's pointing fingers not at Republicans and not at Donald Trump, not even at the media, but at his own party. Yes, really, at the Democrats. Speaking to former DNC chair Jamie Harrison on the premiere of a new podcast called At Our Table, Hunter Biden blamed Democrats, yes, the Democrats, for his father's humiliating 2024 election loss, and he didn't hold back either. He said, "We lost the last election because we did not remain loyal to the leader of the party. We had the advantage of incumbency. We had the advantage of an incredibly successful administration, and the Democrat Party literally melted down." So let's pause right there for a moment. According to whom exactly is this incredibly successful administration that he references? Biden's approval rating was scraping the bottom of the barrel. Inflation was still choking the middle class. The border was in chaos. Crime was rising, and on the world stage, we looked weaker than ever. That's what Hunter Biden calls success. But sure, Hunter says that the real problem was that Democrats didn't stick with his dad. Not the policies, not the gaffes, not the debate meltdown. Guess they're supposed to overlook that. Not the fact that his father could barely get through a sentence without forgetting the state that he was in. No, the issue was disloyalty. Keep in mind, this is coming from a guy who got a sweeping presidential pardon on his way out the door. Tax charges, gun charges, shady overseas dealings, you name it. 11 years of legal baggage gone in a flash, thanks to good old dad. A pardon so complete and controversial that it made legal scholars do double takes. So I guess we shouldn't expect anything less from Hunter Biden than to defend his dad, because his dad certainly defended him for a long, long time. Yet here he is trying to lecture Democrats on how they abandoned his father too soon. You'd almost forget who created the mess in the first place. I mean, let's rewind. Joe Biden, struggling in the polls, gave the worst debate performance in modern history last June. It wasn't a stumble. It wasn't a flub. It was a full-on meltdown. Rambling answers, blank stares. The American people saw it, and so did his own party. Within weeks, Democrats were panicking. Open letters, anonymous quotes, donors revolting. It was a firestorm. Eventually, Biden was forced to step down, of course. The nominee became Kamala Harris, and as we all remember, she melted down too. She lost big time. So what does Hunter Biden say? Not that maybe my dad was too old. Not maybe the voters wanted change. No, he says it's because the party wasn't loyal enough. Well, look, Hunter, the party just wanted to win. They wanted to maintain power, to hold on to it. Your dad wasn't capable of doing that. I mean, this isn't just tone deaf. It is delusional. Just like his dad still saying that had he stayed in the race, he could have beaten Donald Trump. That's delusional. The voters didn't reject Joe Biden because of disloyal Democrats. They rejected him because the country was falling apart under his watch, because groceries cost more than they had in decades, because fentanyl was pouring across the border, because people were scared to walk down their own street at night, because we were watching a president in real time who looked increasingly incapable of doing the job. It's just that simple. Hunter also took a moment to swat down the idea that he had any kind of inside role in the White House. He said, I stayed as far away as I possibly could, which, by the way, I hope he did. I hope he's telling the truth for once. Yeah, sure. Hunter was everywhere, whether it was shady business dealings in Ukraine and China or popping up at the White House events. The American public knew exactly who he was and what he represented. The living, breathing symbol of how D.C. works for the well-connected and no one else. Doesn't work for the rest of us like that. Nobody else gets to do what Hunter Biden did and get away with it. And yet, there he is on this podcast, blaming the party and brushing aside the scandals. And get this, he says the idea that his father's mental decline was covered up is just a conspiracy theory. Sure. He told Jamie Harrison, what sells is the idea of a conspiracy, but the ability to keep a secret in Washington is zero. Oh, really? Hunter's talking about keeping a secret? This is coming from the same crew that denied for months that there was anything wrong, even after the debate debacle. Democrat leaders tried to gaslight the public. He had a cold, Hunter said. Yeah, he had a cold. He had a bad night, he said. They dragged it out as long as they could, right up until the pressure became too much and they knew they had to have a new candidate. And the powers that be within the Democrat Party was right in there with him. And now we're learning even more, that Biden used an auto pen to sign hundreds of official documents, including pardons, and that staffers, not Joe Biden, were often the ones calling the shots. Yet Hunter wants you to believe everything was above board. Nothing to see here. Dad was fine. And let's not forget either what he got in return. Hunter Biden got clemency, not just for minor offenses, but for years of alleged criminal behavior. His father gave him a pardon so broad it wiped away an entire chapter of misconduct. Oh, and the only pardon Biden did sign, as I've told you before, he did sign little Hunter's by his own hand. Not the thousands of others signed with an auto pen, but he did sign his son's with a pen in his own hand. If there were any other politician, this would be a scandal of Watergate proportions, but because it's Joe Biden, The media just looked the other way. They're just yawning as if they're bored. And now, with Democrats still licking their wounds from a brutal loss, here comes Hunter Biden telling them that they were the problem, that he and his father were wronged. I mean, what's even more amazing is that Jamie Harrison, the guy who ran the DNC for nearly 5 years, agreed with him. I haven't heard the whole interview. I heard excerpts. And not once have I seen a report that Jamie Harrison pushed back on anything that Hunter said. He told Semaphore that the Democrats could have won if they had had the kind of loyalty Republicans have for Donald Trump. Now, on that point, he's not wrong. Republicans do stick with Donald Trump. And maybe Democrats could learn something about unity. But you can't unify behind failure. And that's what Joe Biden's presidency was, a historic failure like we have never seen before. You believe in this? That Hunter Biden has the nerve to be out there saying that it was the party's fault and not his dad's? Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, you know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. You know, today seems like it's just consumed with what the Democrats are doing. I mean, we talked about Hunter Biden. We talked about Joe Biden. We talked about how the Democrats use the auto pen and how the House Oversight Committee is investigating particularly or may bring in Jill Biden and the former president himself. Well, there's one other item that we got to cover today, too. And here we are yet again talking about Adam Schiff. And this time is not just political theater. This time is potentially criminal. Senator Adam Schiff, and it hurts me to say Senator Adam Schiff, Democrat of California, the man who spent years lecturing the rest of us about law and order, who led the charge in impeaching President Trump over a phone call. Yeah, that guy, Adam Schiff, has just been referred to the Department of Justice for mortgage fraud. Let that sink in for a minute. Think about that. According to a stunning letter sent in May from the director of the U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Mr. Schiff may have falsified mortgage documents over a period spanning more than 15 years to get better interest rates and dodge taxes. Now, does this sound familiar? This is like a pattern among Democrats. Who was the person from New Jersey who did this, the Democrat who just recently did this in New York and New Jersey? The words sustained pattern of possible occupancy misrepresentation appear right there in black and white. That's the federal government's language, not ours. Sustained pattern of possible occupancy misrepresentation. In other words, you can't doctor your application to get better treatment from a bank, to get a better interest rate. You can't falsify mortgage documents, and that's what he's being potentially accused of. Now, we've all heard of politicians double talking the public, but falsifying legal documents across multiple years, that's not a mistake. That's not a gaffe. That's like intentional, and that could be a felony. So let's walk through the facts as we know them right now, because they do matter. Schiff and his wife bought a house in Potomac, Maryland, back in 2003 for $870,000. They took out a $610,000 Fannie Mae backed loan and swore swore under penalty of law that it would be their, ready, primary residence. Okay, sounds simple enough. But here's the problem. Schiff was an elected official representing California at the time, not Maryland. So how exactly was a house in suburban Maryland his primary residence? It wasn't. We know that. It gets worse, though. He went on to refinance the same house in 2009, again in 2011, again in 2012, and for some reason again in 2013. And every single time, each refinancing, he reaffirmed under oath that the Maryland home was his main residence. Meanwhile, he was living and working full-time in California, representing a district in Los Angeles County and taking a homeowner's tax exemption on a condo in Burbank, California. That tax break, worth about $7,000. Another lie, another benefit. But it's okay if Democrats do that, I guess. It's okay if little Adam Schiff is not held to the same standards that you and I would be held to. So let's tally this up. While he was serving in Congress, writing laws for the rest of us to follow, Adam Schiff was possibly committing wire fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud, and making false statements to financial institutions, all to save a few bucks on interest rates and lower his tax bill. Does that sound like someone who should be sitting in the United States Senate? And by the way, this isn't some right-wing blogger making the claims. This is coming from Fannie Mae's own Financial Crimes Division, the people whose job it is to protect the American mortgage system from fraud. They investigated it, they reviewed the documents, and they concluded there's enough here to warrant a full-blown criminal investigation. Now, let's add a little more context here. Schiff didn't list the Maryland home as a secondary residence until 2020, 17 years after the purchase, long after he was a national figure. And just last year, his spokesperson told CNN, quote, Adam's primary residence is Burbank, California, and will remain so when he wins the Senate seat. So which is it? Because both can't be true. Let's remember, mortgage lenders offer better loan terms to primary residences. Why? Because they're less risky. If you fall on hard times, you're more likely to keep paying off the roof that's over your head every night than you are a second home. That's why secondary residence loans come with higher interest rates, often by 0.5% or more. But Adam Schiff apparently didn't want to pay those rates. He wanted the cheaper loan, like we all would. But he was willing to do something to get it. So he certified again and again that his home in Maryland was his primary home, even while telling the voters of California that he lived among them and represented their interests in Congress. It's fraudulent. It's dishonest. And if you or I did it, we'd already be facing an indictment. But not for Schiff. Nope. It's the law's not made for him. Not for Adam Schiff. No, he gets to call it a smear and dismiss it like he always does, pretending that it's just something, a Trumpian harassment, that it's the MAGA movement coming after him. It's all political. And that's what Democrats do. That's their battle cry. Anytime they get caught with their hands in the cookie jar, they always cry politics, that they're being politically persecuted by the conservatives, by the Republicans, those nasty old Republicans over there accusing them of things. Funny, isn't it? How every time someone gets caught red-handed, suddenly the real crime is calling them out. It's our fault that he got caught. Trump responded on Truth Social. The president wrote, mortgage fraud is very serious and crooked Adam Schiff needs to be brought to justice. Look, I got to believe that with the history that President Donald Trump has had with Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff as he calls him, I got to believe that the president is probably going to try to hold him to the standard that he should be held to, right? I don't think the president's going to let this pass by. I think he's probably added a little note to his calendar to check back in about a week to see where we go with this. And look, the president's right, because here's the thing. This isn't a one-off. It's a pattern. Just last year, a federal jury convicted former Baltimore State's attorney Marilyn Mosby for doing the exact same thing, lied on a mortgage application for a vacation home in Florida. She was found guilty, and the Department of Justice threw the book at her. So what makes Adam Schiff different? Well, Schiff's answer, as always, is to blame Trump. It's Donald Trump's fault. In a video statement, he said, it's nothing new, but his attacks on the rule of law are more dangerous than ever. No, Adam Schiff, what's dangerous is a U.S. senator thinking that he's above the law. You, sir. This is a man who spent years wagging his finger at the American people, telling us democracy would die in darkness if we didn't hold Trump accountable for everything under the sun, including some of the trumped-up charges, pun intended, of some of the prosecutors, some of the very same accusations they made against Trump. Schiff pushed conspiracy theories about Russian collusion that fell apart under scrutiny. He used his perch on the Intelligence Committee to grandstand, to lie, and to leak. Anything that he could make up, he tried to in order to get at Donald Trump. That's just who Adam Schiff is. And we can't let him get by with it this time. And now he's the one facing a criminal referral for mortgage fraud. Suddenly, it's time to cry foul. Suddenly, he's got to go back on the defense and claim that, oh, Donald Trump did it. That nasty old Donald Trump, he's after me again. Give me a break. Here's the bottom line. The rules are supposed to apply to everyone, right? If a working class family lied on a mortgage application, they'd be in handcuffs. But Adam Schiff, he gets to go on MSNBC and play the little victim. Cry foul that Donald Trump has targeted him, that the bad old Republicans are coming after him because of who he is. The Department of Justice now has a choice to make. Will they treat Schiff like the rest of us? Or will they look the other way because he's a prominent Democrat with a media fan club, because he's a member of the most exclusive club on the planet, the U.S. Senate? What are they going to do? The American people are watching, and they're tired of this double standard, I can promise you. We've seen what happens when elite politicians break the rules and walk away unscathed. It's how you lose faith in the system. It's how cynicism spreads, and it's how republics die. We're not going to let it happen. Adam Schiff needs to be held accountable, not because he's a Democrat, but because no one is above the law. If he broke it, he should face the same consequences you would face and that I would face. Got a lot of text messages. Not going to be able to get through them all. I'll just kind of randomly choose some. Ray says, good day, Joey. On the subject of the auto pen and pardons, we should look at the money. A lot of people who want a pardon are willing to pay a lot of money. We should look at the wealth and increase in wealth of all the Biden aides who had access to the auto pen. A lot of the pardons don't make sense politically, but may make sense financially to the people who have the power to give these pardons with the auto pen. Keep up the good work. Now, Ray, are you suggesting that the Bidens and the Biden administration would sell pardons? Kind of like they sold, kind of like Hunter sold his dad to the Chinese and to the Ukrainians and whoever else he did. Tony says, Joey, with this auto pen conspiracy, does that mean that Ketanji Brown Jackson's certification isn't legit, considering it takes a president's signature to put them on the Supreme Court? Interesting question, Tony. Now, I don't know if, has it come out that hers was signed with the auto pen? Maybe you know something I don't, Tony, but that's worth looking into for sure. Pete writes, Joey, the lowest amount of a tip you are to leave is a quarter, not 25% of the bill, a quarter. It signifies poor service. This is in reference to, I told you the story yesterday of the guy who was called out by his waiter because he didn't leave enough tip. And I was asking you, is it ever legit to not even leave a tip at all when you get poor service? I mean, don't you tip when you get good service? Scott from Toccoa says tipping culture has gotten insane. Tips are based on service. So yes, if a service worker called me out because they didn't like what I left them, I would leave nothing. On a side note, if the lady can't pay her bills on tips, then perhaps she needs a more suitable line of work. Good point, Scott. Appreciate your text. Texter says, I couldn't care less about the Epstein file. Prices going down at Audi's and Ingalls getting more American-made products in are what I care about. The auto pen is far more important to me than the Epstein list. Thank you. Appreciate that. Marsha writes, in relationship to the Epstein list, in the desire of people to see names on this list, please remember the names of the victims could be on the list as well. These young girls, young women have grown up. Many have families now. They don't need to relive the horror of the Epstein experience. Please remember Virginia, how do you pronounce her name? Jeffrey? Probably not saying that right. She's a young woman who brought down Prince Andrew. Virginia had married, had children, and was living in Australia. Virginia committed suicide this year. Getting the names on the list isn't that easy. Thank you, Marsha. I appreciate that. That's a good reminder. We are talking about people here, humans. Katrina says, hey, Joey, if Ralph Norman jumps in, I think the race will be between he and the lieutenant governor. Donald J. Trump will endorse one of them, and it will matter. In the case of Lindsey Graham, the endorsement will not matter, at least in the upstate. Everyone hates him. Newsom spent a bit of time bashing Lindsey Graham, which was endearing to everyone here. I guess that one topic with bipartisan appeal. Thank you, Katrina. Appreciate your text message. So speaking of the Epstein saga, and I can't believe the show's almost over, and I haven't even mentioned Epstein yet, Alan Dershowitz has officially stepped back into this whole Epstein saga. Remember, he's he was Jeffrey Epstein's attorney, and he's not tiptoeing in this time. In a full-throated Wall Street Journal op-ed, the former Harvard law professor, constitutional lawyer, and let's not forget Epstein defense attorney, tells the world to calm down, put down the pitchforks, and quit chasing ghosts. According to Dershowitz, the entire Epstein mythology, the secret client list, the blackmail tapes, the the Mossad connection, he says is all smoke, no fire. And just like that, one of the most enduring political and cultural conspiracies of the 21st century is, in his words, really nothing much to see here. So let's back up for a minute. This is the same Alan Dershowitz who helped Jeffrey Epstein secure that sweetheart deal back in 2008, 13 months in the Florida jail, mostly on a work release after pleading guilty to solicitation of a minor. So whatever you think of Dershowitz, and believe me, opinions vary, you have to admit this. The guy has insider knowledge. He was there when all of this was unfolding. So when he says there was never a client list, should we listen? Or is he still trying to protect his client who's dead? Should we listen? Good question. Not necessarily because you believe him outright, but because you would think that he's not speculating from the sidelines. He claims to have read the files. He claims to have reviewed the interviews, seen the video footage. And according to Alan Dershowitz, the idea of Epstein keeping a meticulously compiled blackmail list of the world's elites is fiction, dreamed up by people who want the worst version of this story to be true, he said. He wrote, the FBI interviewed alleged victims who named several clients. These names have been redacted. That's it. No full roster, no official list, just victim statements and sealed records. And as for those names, Dershowitz says none of them include current office holders, another way of saying nobody in power right now is implicated, at least not officially. Now, let's talk about the tapes, because for years the buzz has been that Epstein's homes, especially the one in Palm Beach and on this island, were rigged with secret cameras. The theory is that he had recorded powerful men doing illegal things and used that footage to protect himself. That's been the backbone of this narrative for years. Dershowitz shut that down flat. He says there are videotapes, but they are public areas of his Palm Beach, Florida home. He even claims the cameras were installed by law enforcement after Epstein reported stolen property, not by Epstein himself, and certainly not hidden in bedrooms or bathrooms. According to Dershowitz, he's not aware of any video surveillance in private guest areas. That's a big claim, especially from someone who was part of the legal team navigating those allegations. And what about Donald Trump? After all, the idea that Trump and Epstein were thick as thieves, that Trump was somehow ensnared in Epstein's alleged blackmail operation, has long been a favorite talking point of the left. It resurfaces every few months like clockwork. But according to Mr. Dershowitz, who represented Trump during his first impeachment trial, he shoots that down too. He said, open records show an acquaintance between Epstein and Mr. Trump many years ago. He wrote, but that relationship ended. He claims that when Trump reportedly banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago, no shady dealings, no secret tapes, no scandalous connection, just a brief social overlap that in Dershowitz's view ended long before Trump ever took office. That alone is enough to stir the pot. But wait, there's more. Always more. Because Dershowitz also takes aim at the ultimate Epstein conspiracy theory, that he was murdered in federal custody. Officially, Epstein died by suicide in a Manhattan jail cell in August of 2019. But since that moment, doubts have been nonstop. Malfunctioning cameras, missing footage, guards asleep at the wheel, and a broken bone. The kind of stuff that screams cover up to half the country. Dershowitz says, oh, no, he's not buying the murder angle. But, and this is the key, he doesn't think it was clean either. He says Epstein did take his own life, but maybe had some help within the jail. Maybe jail personnel took over somehow. Maybe they assisted him in some way. Maybe someone made sure that he had the opportunity. He says that seems likely to me, citing the odd circumstances, broken cameras, a missing cellmate, and no guards on duty at the time. Suicide, he says, yes, but maybe not an unsupervised one. That's Alan Dershowitz's story, and that's what Alan Dershowitz seems to want to stick to. He debunks all of the other theories, all the other conspiracy theories about Epstein. Do you believe it? Does this help you at all? Put this, kind of settle some of this argument? That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.